Hello friends, and welcome to LevelHead, where we look at and learn from great level design. Today I'm joined by my good friend and fellow game analyst Todd of Rated S Games to talk about The Legend of Zelda: A Link Between Worlds.
Yes, I'm here too, and I've brought with me a LevelHead. I'm a completely and totally reasonable person.
I'm regretting this already.
The spiritual successor to fan favorite A Link to the Past, A Link Between Worlds is the first game to really bridge the gameplay gap that exists between the top-down Zeldas like Link's Awakening and the Oracle's games and the 3D Zeldas like Ocarina of Time and Twilight Princess.
It takes place in the same space as A Link to the Past and is viewed from the same skewed perspective, but it handles the Z-axis with a much more loving, nurturing hand. That coupled with new mechanics makes for a very different experience.
Now we really don't need to get into the details of 2D versus 3D Zeldas and how they haven't been kind to the Z-axis in the past. I'm sure you all know that Egoraptor has a fantastic 30-minute video all about that, and it's great, and if you haven't seen it, you should definitely see it, but after this video, of course.
Instead of worrying which way works better or worse, we've gone ahead and chosen a dungeon from A Link Between Worlds which demonstrates how its solid level design gets the most out of its gameplay mechanics.
And with that, the level we settled on is the Tower of Hera.
I wanted to be a part of that too.
The Tower of Hera is the second or third dungeon in the game, depending on whether you choose to do the House of Gales before or after it. Rather than being a sprawling dungeon with room after room to explore laterally, it's a completely vertically oriented level with over 12 floors and a ton of great design from top to bottom.
Hence why it's called the Tower of Hera and not the sprawling catacombs of Hera.
Like all of the dungeons in A Link Between Worlds, the entrance is inaccessible unless you have the right item, this one being the hammer. It's a very obvious tip-off, but the pillars here tell you to hit these little posts with the hammer and that lets you enter the dungeon. And right inside the door, that teaching is reiterated immediately. You can't move any further in because these moles are blocking your path.
The way they pop out of the ground, coupled with you already having the hammer equipped, makes it pretty obvious what you gotta do. You smash him in the face. Floor 1 is essentially a mechanic sampler for the whole tower, letting you know what you'll face in the later floors by showing all of it to you in a rather simple and controlled manner.
Next up are these crystal switches, which raise and lower the color matching walls when you hit them. They may seem pretty straightforward, but they're used in some pretty unique and fun ways later on.
After passing those, you have some enemies that can't be hurt, but most likely you're still in a hammering mood. So why stop smashing now?
Next in line is probably the most important mechanic of the tower. The moles here are lined up around this platform and there's really nothing else to do on this floor aside from smashing them.
So you smash them! Again, I know this isn't a horror game, but if you run on top of them, you're in for a whole different kind of jump scare.
With that out of the way, the level can really get going. This is the first part of the dungeon where you need to use the merge mechanic on the wall, and if you were paying close attention when fighting the turtles a few moments ago, you might have noticed the rays of light coming from the window here.
They're tough to miss, and since exploring them rewards you with 50 rupees, you'll learn to keep small details like this in mind.
That said, moving in the opposite direction will advance you through the level. Here you'll encounter your first big mole, and even though it doesn't look like it'll send you anywhere, it seems pretty apparent that you need to hit it, right?
We've learned what to do with moles, no matter the size, so hopefully we don't have to remind you. Once you've done the thing I just said that I won't say again, you're launched up to the next floor entirely and right into the middle of combat. There, the situation gets a little bonkers. Not like heart attack levels of bonkers, but there's still a chance that you'll panic attack one of these dudes and get bounced back down a level.
Luckily, the stage is designed to be forgiving. You should only be set back a few seconds at the most, and it's meant to show you what happens when you fail without being frustrating.
Also, since smashing these guys with a hammer doesn't kick you back, you're reminded to keep that thing at the ready yet again, and that's just some smooth level synergy right there.
There's another big mole in this pit in the center, and he's next to a chest, so it's definitely calling you to jump down, or you can just get knocked in if you haven't learned yet. This chest contains the compass, which helps with the dungeon but isn't necessary, so passing it up isn't a big deal, but again, it's a reward for observing your surroundings and being aware of your Z-axis. You know, what's above and below you. Going further upward, at first it seems like you're trapped by these walls, and even if you have the bow, you can't hit these crystals.
This is the first time you're prompted to merge with the switching walls, and since there's no other way to move forward, it's a great method of getting you up to speed with that mechanic. If you try and go forward, you're blocked by a locked door, and the key is sitting in plain sight, but out of reach. These orange walls are double wide for some reason, but they're also the first ones that are close enough to the crystals to hit with your sword. And just like that, elevators. There's just too much up to go around.
Through the door is the outside of the tower, which is another nice conceptual reassessment of what a Zelda dungeon is. You set off to the other side on a floating platform, and on your way there, you're suddenly blocked by a huge wall, but you're given just enough time to realize that your merge option is available to avoid falling. As a part 2 of this obstacle, you're presented with some vertically moving blocks, and as you pass, you get a bunch of time to see how they work. There's a platform with some hearts on it to lure you off, and a wall stops you from going any further, directing you back to the moving blocks.
With nothing else you can do, you're prompted to merge with a wall again, and that allows you to ride the block up to the next floor.
The next room does a good job of following up on 2 previous mechanics, but used together.
You work your way over to the chest, but are instead greeted with a disappointing dead end. But lo and behold, the light coerces the dust and darkness aside, leaving only a puzzle solution. That window is just as tall as the top of these walls, which just so happen to be in sword range of the crystal, which you can thus hit and activate. Bam.
As you head out onto another open platform ride, things start getting tricky. Same basic idea as before, but now you're dodging spinning blades. Earlier, the elevator blocks had a very unique texture to them, and as you pass this wall with the same texture, it tries to push you into the abyss. The matching texture is a great tip-off to tell you to merge when this happens. Following suit, the elevator blocks return, but with a changed format to keep you guessing.
Calling back to the earlier one, an alcove with a heart lures you off, thus creating a setup to board the elevator. That's some smart continuity right there. This level's been making going up feel awesome this whole time. I wonder why that is.
Also, there's a big platform up here just in case you don't react fast enough, and it's pretty clever. It could have easily stopped flat at the corner, but it wraps around the top edge just a bit, which is kind of odd, right? Inspecting the map for a moment reveals that it's actually a hint at a secret platform full of rupees for the smart dungeon crawler. Bravo, Nintendo.
Bravo, indeed. We are making progress. The next room is a big fight with a bunch of jumping skeletons, which would be pretty annoying if you weren't doing that thing that I was saying, like, do this thing for the 80 millionth frickin' time. That thing.
Beating them unlocks an elevator platform up to the next floor, which is a mess of crystals, walls, and enemies that you need to use the hammer to kill. At the same time, there are cracks all over the floor, and fighting these enemies is meant to lead you to bust open the floor by accident.
With this knowledge in hand, you can head over to the correct spot, break through the floor, and grab a key to advance. Again, the mechanics continue to come together and test your knowledge of them to keep you on your toes. Big moles again means go up again. Here though, the first gives you a lot of time to set up, but then you have to do it again, while moving. Talk about being on your toes. But hey, if you mess up, drink some purple and try again.
In this last room, you have to fight more of these enemies that bounce you back while hitting these switches to allow you to reach this big mole. Once that's done, it's time to head up to the boss. A few more big moles and a big key later, here you are at the final fight. You catapult onto the stage and what's that? Is that a burger? Is that a googly eye oh. Now that's more burgers.
Yeah, this boss is like a train of whoppers.
Just look at him moving all over the place. Guess you can call them sliders, huh?
Man, I would sure love to take this video to go.
Thought we were at Harris Castle, not White Castle.
Unlike your puns, he's looking well done.
Does this boss have a lot of health? Looks pretty beefy.
See, no, cause why is it gotta be beef? It could be turkey, it could be turkey. We don't know it's beef.
Moldorm, more like Mealdorm, am I right? Alright, I'm done.
I should just seal you away with Ganon and all the other terrible people.
In the past, or more specifically a link to the past, the Moldorm fight was notorious for resetting you if you were knocked off during the fight.
Knocking you off happens to be his whole attack method dealio, so that was kind of messed up.
But this fight punishes you by dropping you into a field of spiked wheels, giving you some trouble but not enough to make the fight unbearable. And on top of that, a few hearts line the outer edges, so falling off is more of a minor setback, and even if you take a hit or two from the spikes, you can just unpuncture your body and keep on fighting.
A Link Between Worlds is really the Zelda game that does 3D level design right. This, like Shovel Knight, had me unsure of which stage to pick just because they're all so good.
The game is a treasure trove of learned lessons and proof that Nintendo's been listening. The name is quite fitting, as it's easily the best of both worlds, 2D and 3D. You can go wherever you want, do whatever you want, and explore at your own pace, while still being perfectly justified in expecting and receiving multifaceted puzzles, challenges, and secrets.
Those who know me and my show probably know that Majora's Mask is one of my favorite games of all time, but if I was asked to recommend just one Zelda game to somebody entering the franchise, A Link Between Worlds would be it without hesitation.
Yeah, me too. And in fact, it's become my favorite Zelda ever. So, if you have a 3DS and you haven't played it yet, well, I mean, get right on that.
Thanks for watching, and be sure to click the annotation to watch the other half of this Zelda collab with Rated S Games on his channel, where we talk about Ravio's shop and exploration in A Link Between Worlds. He makes some fantastic content that hits the middle ground of review and design analysis, and you should definitely give his channel a look. Don't forget to hit the like button if you enjoyed this, and subscribe if you want to see more. This has been Sunder, and I'll see you next time.